Hi everyone, my name is Beacon. I'm the poi mechanic, and today I'm going to show you a video on how to make contact poi with stage balls without compromising the ball and creating a slit in it. A lot of times people will drill a hole for their tether, feed their tether through, slit the ball, pull the rope out, tie a knot, pull the rope back through, and then you're left with this slit here. Some people glue it, some people fuse it with a hot knife, but even still I've seen these things come apart, and I'm not a fan of that method. So what I figured out how to do is create a cone on the end of my rope. And what that does is you put this through the hole and then it won't pull back out because this acts as a washer on the end here. Now there's a couple different methods to do that. The first one is a method I don't really prefer anymore, but depending on what kind of tools you have, you might want to go with this method. The reason I don't prefer it is it's a little messier. Anyways, what you want to do is create a mold with a two-part epoxy. Now, all the two-part epoxies I found on the market does not bond to polypropylene, which is what most of the contact rope we use nowadays is. So you don't want to use anything but JB Weld company. They have a product called JB Plastic Bonder. You can find it at auto parts stores and some home improvement stores. But so what you want to do is create a funnel or cone-shaped, mold in wood. And the way I did that was I used a step bit. You can also get these at most home improvement stores. Step bit is a bit that has multiple sizes of bits in one bit. So what I do is I drill a hole in the wood. You're going to want to coat that with something so your plastic doesn't stick to it. So I use chapstick. Chapstick works really well. Just take some, smear it on your finger, and then get a really thin layer of it in here. So your two-part epoxy is going to come in a little syringe, and this syringe is like a dual barrel syringe, and so you press the plunger on it and it shoots out supposedly equal parts of epoxy. The problem with that is a lot of times in this syringe you'll have air bubbles behind some of the product on one side of the tube, and when you start to press it, it'll just put air bubbles out on one side, and then the other side it's putting out epoxy. So the way to keep that from happening is put the syringe up on its end for like an hour or two. That way all the air bubbles will come to the top, because it's really vital that you get the two-part epoxy to mix equally. So anyways, put a bead of that in your little mixing tray, mix it up, put it in there, and then set your rope inside of it. Now it says it sets in like 15 minutes. I think cures in 30 or something like that. I usually let it cure for at least an hour or so, just to make sure that it's going to be fine once I pull on it. Because even with the the chapstick in there, sometimes it can be a little bit of a tug that you have to do to get it pulled out. So anyways, pull it out, and yeah, you can make whatever size hole you want. I think I used 5/8 on mine. I've never had it come out of any of my poi, and I use this on most of my poi. So the next method is my preferred method. So the way I got this cone on this rope is I melted it. And the way I did that is I got a piece of aluminum from Ace Hardware. It was $3.99. Just a thin piece of aluminum. And I drilled that out with a step bit again, and then I set my cone inside there. Now the cone that I use is a cake decorating tip. You can get these at Walmart, or most food stores will have it if you go to the spices aisle. So I use a number 2 tip, and the reason I use that is because it's the smallest hole I think that you can get. And anyways, you want to seal off that hole so the melted plastic doesn't come out. Now if you pay attention, you'll see that there's a little seam on here, and I don't think it'll pick it up in the video, and it's even hard to tell when they're new, but if you look on the inside you'll see the seam. When you find the seam, you want to make sure that when you're closing the metal, you don't close, if the seam's running this way, you don't want to pinch the metal closed this way, because it will make the seam split open. So you'll clamp it this way. So anyways, stick that inside your aluminum. The reason I use aluminum is as a shield, because if you're just trying to heat this up with a a torch or whatever, if you're holding it with pliers or whatever, a lot of times the heat will rise and start to melt your rope in areas you don't want it melted. So I just start heating it up from a distance. If you get it too hot, it'll turn red hot, which you don't want to start sticking your rope in there if it's red hot, because it will burn the plastic, and when this re-solidifies, it'll start to break down, and it starts to crumble. You don't want it to do that. So, you know, heat it up for maybe 30 seconds or so, maybe a little bit more. Start feeding your rope down in there. Now, a lot of times what happens is when you're putting the rope down into here, the rope will start to balloon out. And if it solidifies like that, then you don't have much surface area on the back here, and it won't hold inside the poi head very well. So the way to fix that is you can either wrap some floss around this and then, you know, kind of wrap it a ways back. It takes quite a bit of rope to, you know, probably about that much rope. So you can wrap the floss a ways back just to hold your rope tighter, or you can do what I do. You either use a piece of PVC or some other type of a tube. I'm a regular car mechanic too, so I happen to have this part from a car. Anyways, I feed the rope through here, and what that does is hold the rope nice and tight. I like this because once the rope melts to, you know, gets to this lip here, I use this to kind of press it down, and it creates a nice flat surface on the back. So anyways, that's how you do that. Now, a lot of people might think that that wouldn't be enough to hold your poi head on, but you can trust me on this. It's not going to pull off unless you really give it some force. So nothing that you can do spinning, I wouldn't imagine, would make it pull out. I do orbitals like crazy, so that usually has a lot of centrifugal force, and yeah, as I said, I've never had a problem. So you can just press it in there. Sometimes you need a pair of pliers or needle nose pliers, and just work it in there, and it won't pull out. I mean, it takes, as I said, a lot of force. If you ever do want to pull it out, though, you can heat this little area up right here. Say if you ever want to replace your tether, heat this up with a heat gun just for a little, maybe 10 seconds or so, and then it pops out fairly easy. I use Mr. Babashi stage balls, so if they're a softer stage ball. If I really wanted to, I could probably pull it out without heating it up. But if you use something like play stage balls, they're a little bit harder, and I tried pulling that out earlier on another set I'm replacing the tethers on, and I couldn't do it. So, hit it with a heat gun for 10 or so seconds, and it pulled right out. So, also on my contact poi, I don't like knots in the end of mine. I like them nice and smooth. So, if you can see down in there, it's nice and smooth. Now, the way I do that is I just put a washer on the back side of the rope here and take a lighter to it, warm it up so it's nice and gooey, and then just press it flat against something like, this works pretty good, a surface that's flat and metal, and that'll create a little head on there, so when you pull this through, it will not come undone. As I said, I do orbitals a lot, and I pull on these really hard, and it's never budged. So I even do my fire poi handles in the same way, and never had a problem. So anyways, that's my video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you have any questions or comments or suggestions, please leave them in the comment section below. You can check out my other videos. I have videos out there on how to make light up pod mod, contact ball, poi, light up handles, swivels on 3/8" rope, and I plan on uploading a bunch of other videos on fire props. So anyways, thanks for watching. Have a good one.